This year, it's all about the new. New decade, new faces, new expectations. And as the Cowboys are on their quest for 6, they got the same dream. Where will this team go? There's no limits to what they can accomplish. So with a fresh perspective and a new direction, the 2020 Dallas Cowboys are determined to find greatness. And it all starts this offseason, right here on the Blitz.
Welcome to a brand new edition from the Blitz, a very uncharacteristic look for Bill Jones and I, Lindsay Draper here. We are bringing you all the Cowboys news, things that are happening throughout free agency from our respective quarantined places in the DFW Metroplex. Miss you, Bill.
Miss you, Lindsay. I'm in my office and I've got the door closed, and so there's no threat of my beagles, Bo and Romo, interrupting the show in the next 30 minutes.
I know how they are, though. They may get a mind of their own, and we completely welcome them if they do. Let's kick off this show right now, Bill, with the way the Cowboys and the NFL as a family are donating to this COVID-19 relief. Over $35 million raised. So many players on the Cowboys chipping in. Sean Lee, you saw the Hot Boys downtown with a food truck. Drive-through, of course, as they were having people follow all the social distancing rules there. But it's great to see them kind of come together during this time, even though it is their off season.
Yep, Sean Lee with $150,000. Travis Frederick as well. More on him in just a second. But for Travis Frederick, blocking out hunger, providing foods for school children in need all around North Texas, and it's great to see. And of course, what DeMarcus Lawrence and those guys did, that's taken the Hot Boys to a new level. That was the best Sunday they've had in a while.
Yes, it was. And you mentioned Travis Frederick, and Bill, I can't honestly say that I'm completely surprised that he retired after all that he's been through and the year he had last year, coming back after missing an entire year. But I think still in the midst of all of this news we had going on in the world, it was something that kind of hurt when you added it on that Travis Frederick will not be back as a Cowboy.
Yeah, once he made the announcement, it wasn't a surprise because we know how much he had battled back, still at a young age, but a lot of years in this league already playing at such a high level. And, I had just talked to him a couple of days before, and there was no mention of it. That was back on Thursday of the week before, about 4 days before he made the announcement. Wow. But the shock of it was real when he made the announcement at 5 o'clock on Monday afternoon. And what a great tribute to we know what kind of guy that Travis Frederick is, but he's already been voted by his teammates for the Ed Block Courage Award. Every year he could be the Walter Payton Man of the Year and what he's done in the community, and he will continue that now even in retirement.
Yeah, you got guys like Tyron Smith, who are men of very little words, stepping up and showing and speaking out about how much he meant to them. They're absolutely going to miss his skill out there on the field, as well as professionalism, leadership, all of those things in between. And we're going to talk with Nick Eatman about that later, who his replacement might be. But we do still have the draft ahead of us, Bill, and the Cowboys are addressing the interior defensive line, meaning wonder if they'll lean towards the back end in the draft, but adding Dontari Poe with Gerald McCoy. Do you like this, what they're doing here?
Yeah, I do, and I think one of the big things is, one of the main reasons I like it, if Dontari Poe can play anywhere near the level that he has throughout his career, is, he's 345 pounds, and it gives the Cowboys and defensive coordinator Mike Nolan some flexibility. They can truly now have a hybrid defense where they can go with a three-man front with Dontari Poe lined up as a nose tackle, which he has played throughout his career, but he's also a good penetrator, even at his size, along with Gerald McCoy. So in the four-man front, he can be effective as well. But that's what I like as much as anything, is they needed a guy with some big girth in the middle, and they certainly have that with Dontari Poe.
Yes, they do. It's good to see them kind of make some move amidst the big contracts and all of these things that they're balancing right now. Behind the scenes, they're still doing little moves during free agency that are going to add up. And, oh, look at the time. We must talk about the belldozer, Blake Bell. You ring a bell for anyone joining the team, veteran tight end? It's got a ring on his finger now, too.
He does. Of course, he won a Super Bowl ring with the Kansas City Chiefs the last year, and he actually made 7 starts. Blake Bell was a quarterback, 5-star quarterback, in fact, out of Wichita, Kansas. When he went to OU, played quarterback the first 4 years, and didn't become a tight end until his last year at Oklahoma. And now in his late 20s, I think, I knew it was going to take time for him to learn the position, and was tutored by one of the best, the late, great Tony Sperano, early on in his NFL career as a tight end. He was the tight ends coach at San Francisco when he was a 4th-round pick. I think he's the perfect second tight end to go alongside Blake Jarwin.
All right, that'll be interesting to see how the Cowboys, the young tight ends, come together with another veteran, Blake Bell, joining the group. We are quarantined. We are staying safe. We hope you are doing the same, and we're taking our first break here from the Blitz. When we come back, Nick Eatman joins us, to talk about Travis Frederick and his replacement, who might step up, and where are the Cowboys on some of these lingering deals. That's next.
The Dallas Cowboys Blitz is brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay. And by the Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco where the Cowboys train and work. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours.
The Blitz continues here as we are talking all kinds of different things here that are going on for free agency and at the Star in Frisco. Well, Nick Eatman, can you give us a little idea of what is going on with some of these deals and maybe who the replacement for Travis Frederick might step up and be?
Thanks, guys. And yes, this is obviously a different setup, but I appreciate you guys having me here. And it's still the Cowboys news continues to go even through this weird world that we live in right now. And, I think when you go back to this week, let's just focus on the stuff that, the big news, but let's focus on the stuff that we know for sure. And I think, it started on Wednesday with Travis Frederick announcing that he was going to retire. I would say surprising news. I wouldn't say shocking, though. When you go back and look at how he played last year and also just what he looked like 2 years ago walking around, no one really thought he might play again, especially go back to the Pro Bowl. But, for him, he's always been a very aware person, and he lives to that standard, and he's played at that Pro Bowl level. And even though he went back last year, I think he's the first to tell you that he didn't play as well as his own expectations were. And so, for him, the focus was on family and the future, and he just didn't think that football should be at the top of the priority list and time to move on. And you applaud someone for that. Now, for the Cowboys, what does it mean? It's hard to tell right now because Joe Looney was re-signed. I think that's more of an insurance policy there. They have some other options, though. Connor McGovern did not play last year, obviously, with the injury, but he's a player that was drafted for his versatility. He can play center. He's done that in college, so it'll be interesting to see if they work him in. Don't rule out Connor Williams as well. The Cowboys really like his versatility. I think he, when you talk about a guard, he may not have that body type for it. Center, he would be a big center. So that might be a situation that they look, in moving him inside. Draft is also a possibility. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But I think for the Cowboys, it does help that they can start for sure with Joe Looney there and then see if they can get somebody better than that. Now, also in the week, on the other side of the middle of the defensive line, Dontari Poe, the Cowboys have been working on a deal with him leading up into Friday. Close to a deal. Sometimes we've heard agreed to terms, very close to working on the language of it. I think it will be done. I think Dontari Poe will be a member of the Cowboys. From what I've heard, this whole, coronavirus situation and all the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the offseason has affected this particular contract with just some of the language and just on some of the dates on when players need to hit certain stipulations. So I do think that when it's all said and done, Dontari Poe will be a member of the Cowboys, and certainly the defensive tackle position. That's a different looking player, 345, 350 pounds. We haven't seen that type of guy in the defensive line for a long time for the Cowboys. You pair him up with Gerald McCoy, and that could be very interesting. So it'll be fun to watch those guys if and when Poe gets signed to join McCoy. And then, the Dak contract is always out there. There's been some talks that the Cowboys have started to resume that. That makes more sense to me because when you think about how this works with all of the contracts the Cowboys have done, the money they've lost, the players they've lost, the guys that they've brought back into the mix, now they kind of know exactly what they're working with. That yes, they put the franchise tag on them, but then now how much money do they have for this year? How do they structure this deal? I think they wanted to get that done. It wouldn't surprise me if the Cowboys get a deal done with Dak Prescott, maybe even as early as next week. I know we've been talking about it a while, but I think now that the wave of free agency has kind of come and gone, the Cowboys can really focus on getting that deal done with Dak Prescott, so make sure he's there for all the offseason stuff, if there are offseason practices. But when that does happen and the Cowboys get the green light to go practice, they want to make sure that Dak Prescott is not only happy, but on the field. And I think the best way to do that is to get a contract done. So that's kind of the way it's done this week. Next week could be a lot more crazier things, but that's kind of wrapping up the three big storylines for the Cowboys this week. I'll throw it back to you guys in the studio or at home, wherever you guys are. Throw it back to you guys.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, we're all over the place, but we're definitely not in the studio for now. Stay safe. Bill, are you as optimistic as Nick seems to be about Dak Prescott's deal early next week?
I don't know about next week, but I am optimistic they will get it done in time before they start their team workouts later on this year.
Sure. They want him present. That is the number one thing. You got a new coach, a lot of new players. You need your quarterback there. All right, thanks a lot to Nick Eatman. When we come back, we have our eye on the draft. And yes, Danny Sarek and David Hellman will join us to give us a player we got to keep our eye on for late April. That's next.
This segment was brought to you by AT&T. Just okay is not okay.
Welcome back to the Blitz. We hope you are all staying safe and staying home out there this week. We mentioned earlier in the show how the Cowboys are addressing the interior defensive line through free agency. Well, now let's check in with Danny Sarek and David Hellman to see who they have their eye on in the draft. And yes, it is a member of the secondary, guys.
The Dallas Cowboys present Eye on the Draft.
In this Eye on the Draft profile, we're going to continue talking about an area of great need for the Dallas Cowboys and defensive backs. Alongside Dave Hellman, I'm Danny Sarek. And Dave, we're going to talk about Dane Jackson, the cornerback out of Pittsburgh.
My guy.
He didn't have a great combine in Indianapolis. He didn't really stand out in any of the drills. However, he did stand out at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. How important is that going to be to override not being a standout at the combine?
Well, this is the fun of the draft process, and it's why people always, say there's multiple pieces to the puzzle. You look at him, 6 flat, 190, ran a 4.57 at the combine, which for a cornerback is not going to catch anybody's eyes. But you go down to Mobile, you watch him in receiver DB drills, one-on-ones against some of the best receivers in the country. He is sticky. I had not heard his name before I got down there. I said, who's this guy from Pitt? Because he is batting balls away, he is talking trash, he is on his man. I am impressed. And again, what's the third part of the puzzle? You go look at the tape and it bears out. He looks impressive on tape for the most part. Again, we're not talking about a first-round pick. We're talking about down the line, round 4, round 5, round 6. You remember Anthony Brown started from day 1 as a Cowboy. The Cowboys found him in round 6. So it's not all just about your top 20 picks. And this guy's probably going to fall between the cracks. But that's perfectly fine with me because I think he's a good football player. If he's there on day 3 of the draft, I would be ecstatic to draft him.
Jackson only has 4 career interceptions. How concerning is that as a corner?
Obviously you want takeaways. That's the debate the Cowboys went through with Byron Jones is how much do you value coverage versus takeaways. You would love your cornerbacks to get 6, 7, 8 picks. I understand that. At the same time, there's only so much of that you can control, especially as a good college corner. How much do teams want to throw at you? How many opportunities do you actually have? Like I said, I'm watching his coverage. I'm watching his hips, how he stays with his man. If you can do that on a consistent basis, I'm willing to draft you. Again, especially if we're talking about a day 3 pick. You know, this is round 4, round 5, where you're really looking at traits more than anything else. Cowboys have a need at cornerback. Multiple players. They probably need to find more than one in this offseason. Dane Jackson, again, we're not talking first or second round pick, but a name worth knowing when you get into those later rounds. I don't care how many picks he has. I think he can play.
That's the 411 on Dane Jackson. Stay up to date on all of our other player profiles on DallasCowboys.com.
Thank you, Danny and David. Now, Bill, it's still sinking in that Byron Jones is a Dolphin, but kept up with him this week, and he said that the young corners here will be just fine without him, but they're gonna have to add some guys into this mix who can hopefully contribute early.
No doubt about it. Of course, they did re-sign Anthony Brown. They added another cornerback. But also keep in mind, Jordan Lewis and Chido Awuzie are going into the last year of their rookie deals. This team has a definite need for a cornerback in the draft. Maybe 2.
100%. Yes, possibly 2. We're going to take a break here right after this. More on the draft. Kyle Yeomans has a player from Ohio State. Yes, there are a lot of them. We are back here continuing on the Blitz, and although we are not at the Star, we are being kept away from the Star. Nothing can keep Kyle Yeomans off of the draft coverage. Kyle, who do you got now?
Thanks so much, Lindsay. And I know we talked about a wide receiver prospect last week in Oklahoma's CeeDee Lamb, but with the absence of Randall Cobb for the Dallas Cowboys, there's an added emphasis at finding a slot receiver. One of those slot prospects is KJ Hill out of Ohio State. He's someone that the draft show has had their eyes on ever since the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. They're not the only ones. The Dallas Cowboys have also had their eye on Hill the entire draft process.
They're trying desperately to get at him. They blitz him. It leaves Hill open right down the middle, and he makes a diving catch inside the 5.
As sure-handed as they come, the North Little Rock product, KJ Hill was a cornerstone at wide receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes for 4 seasons. During his time in Columbus, Hill shattered the school's 20-year-old receiving record with 201 receptions, but even that level of production limited the amount of attention that he was receiving on draft boards, that is, until the week of the Senior Bowl.
In the one-on-ones, I didn't lose a rep with other players respecting my game, coming up to me at the combine, was talking about the Senior Bowl, what I did at the Senior Bowl. I'm an individual showing my skills instead of being with a team now, so I play outside. I want inside, but I have one drop that whole week, so I feel like I proved how versatile I am. Definitely gave me my respects, and it feels great.
His performance down in Mobile opened the eyes of many teams looking for wide receiver help, including the Dallas Cowboys, who decided to have a chat with the Arkansas native.
I talked to them. We mainly was talking about football, but then again, they was talking about my background. They was like, Arkansas kid, I know you like the Cowboys. I'm like, definitely did like the Cowboys growing up. That's all we knew.
But if the Cowboys were to take a chance on a mid-round receiver, what kind of slot presence would they acquire?
Like I tell them, you're going to get a consistent player. You're going to get somebody that's going to give you the same effort, the same production each week.
Hill is the type of receiver that can really open up a playbook, which for a new coaching staff and a young offensive coordinator could be a perfect fit.
Like, you could plug me anywhere. I don't have to just be stuck in the slot and only come in on this play or this package. So a lot of teams talk about using me everywhere.
Even though it would be a dream come true for the Cowboys to select Hill in the upcoming draft and for him to receive an NFL paycheck, he's focused on just one thing, and that's winning.
It's going to be my dream, but, it's really not all about the money for me. It's about, being on that field, catching them passes, catching my first touchdown is going to be better than the money for me.
Reporting for the Blitz, I'm Kyle Yeomans.
Thanks, Kyle. As always, a final break here from the Blitz. When we come back, Roger Goodell's latest on what they are doing with the NFL draft in Vegas after this. All right, wrapping up here on the Blitz. Bill, sounds like from Roger Goodell that the NFL draft is going to stand. They're not budging on the date. Don't know who will be there, but it's still going to happen.
And I found out this week, Lindsay, the Cowboys have a real draft need, the number one draft need. How do they replace Lindsay Draper? You're moving away. This is your last show. I'm so sad.
I am sad. What am I going to do without the Big Green Scouting Notebook? I tell you this, the one positive from this stupid virus that's happened is that I have to come back and get a proper goodbye with everyone in studio, up at the Star. So this is technically not the end.
And Oklahoma is Cowboy country, not just OSU Cowboy country. It is Dallas Cowboy country.
Oh, you know, Saturdays in Norman are definitely in my future, Bill. Yes, we'll miss all of you. Thank you guys so much for everything these last 6 years. Bill Jones, the best co-host ever. I am Lindsay Draper signing off. They will see you next week on a brand new episode of The Blitz.